Welcome to the ultimate Tolkien tournament. This is Middle-earth Madness. Tolkien fans, welcome back to the first round of Rome. Acronym for Races of Middle-earth, our summer tournament here in the Chamber of Death, otherwise known as Middle-earth Madness. Tonight, we have some heavy hitters in action. We have our 1s and 2 seeds, baby, so let's get at it. Without further ado, let's have a look at our bracket. Oh, and right off the bat, you see what's going to be our nightcap fight tonight. We got Durin against Glorfindel. We also have our other one-on-one, 1 seed on 1 seed, Elendil taking on Kamur the Nazgul. So those are our 2 matchups of 1 seeds, and of course in this tournament format a little bit different, right? We have 1 seeds playing 1 seeds in the very first round. Of course, never the same race playing each other, so all of our 1 seeds, all 4 of our number 1 seeds are different races. All 4 of our 2 seeds, different races. The whole point being pit race against race to see which can ultimately win out, and by the time we're in the quarterfinals, only 1 race will advance for each seed. So only elves, dwarves, men, or evil creatures can claim that seed number going forward in the tournament, right? And tonight, we got the heaviest of the heavy hitters, as I mentioned. So 2 awesome fights there. These won't go quite in order tonight. We're actually going to start with this one here, Boromir against the Watcher in the Water. So good one there. And then on the other side of the bracket, by the way, this is all up on middleearthmadness.com. As you see on the top of the page here in the dark green section, just go to the bracket tracker page, and you can pull this up and follow along too if you want. Another fight tonight, our 2 seeds, Azaghal of Bengost, Dwarf Lord from the first stage, against Elrond, well-known Lord of Rivendell. The other 2 seed match, of course, we fought a little bit of out of order last night. For all the fights that you might have missed, middleearthmadness.com. We got links to our YouTube page, and you can go to our YouTube page or just go straight to our YouTube page, Middle Earth Madness, and you can stream or watch on demand in any fights that you've missed. They're edited down to just the fights. You don't have to see us, do our pregame battle engine breakdowns. You can just watch the fight if you want, and feel free to do that and get caught up if you have missed any of the action. But without further ado, we're going to get into our first fight here, which is, as I mentioned, other side of the bracket. Yes, Boromir against the Watcher in the Water. Oh, well, what's this? My website doesn't want to cooperate? That means it needs to get refreshed. And while we do that, we're gonna share a different screen here. We're gonna get the first fight set up for you guys. That's gonna be Boromir against the Watcher. We have it ready to rock in the battle engine. What I don't have is the website. So we're going to work through that. We're going to get it recovered for you guys and relaunched. In the meantime, Boromir, of course, is the son of Denethor. Pretty well-known, member of the Fellowship there. Against the Watcher in the Water, a less-known character, right? But still in the Fellowship of the Ring, outside the gates of Moria. Towards the end of the first book, they encounter a mysterious swamp creature or water creature And we come to find out it's something that slithered out from the depths of Moria close to where the Balrog was, in fact, but through whatever nasty passageways connect all the little subterranean waterways under the Misty Mountains, allowed that creature to slither to the surface and enter the pool outside of Moria. And so, should be a pretty good fight. I wish that I could show you guys the bracket, but it is really not behaving, so we are going to take a quick pause here and get our stuff sorted. I will be right back with you guys. All right, guys, we are back in action, and we are bringing you the first fight of the night. As you see on your screen here, it is Boromir against the Watcher in the water. So let's see what the battle engine thinks of this one, shall we? This is our little pre-game screen here. Blue line on the graph is the Watcher. Green line is Boromir. So it gives you sort of at a glimpse, a snapshot of the two characters and their relative strengths. So right away we see that the accuracy battle and the dexterity battle, stats, both go in favor of Boromir here. Everything else is pretty close. You got a valor advantage for Boromir. Obviously two essentially melee creatures that are going to fight here. So, let us know who you got in your bracket. Drop it in the comments, and we are going to kick off our first fight of the night. In our first fight of the fourth night of the first round of the Rome tournament, that is short for Races of Middle-earth tournament, we have Boromir against the Watcher in the water. Let us fight. First attack goes to the Watcher with the sunken jaws, engages, cannot hit. Back comes Boromir, drawing first blood, only a very slight wound, perhaps cut off a couple suckers from a tentacle. And back comes the Watcher. The Watcher attacks with his sunken jaws, fails to engage. Next attack goes to, as I recover my controls here, goes to Boromir. Can't engage. The Watcher hits, wounds! Again, only slight damage. Blocked with the shield of Boromir. Boromir counters. A wound! Again, only slight damage. Whittling off some suckers, perhaps from those tentacles. Back and forth they go through the 10th round. A hit there with no damage. Boromir blows the Horn of Gondor, calling friends. There is no help coming to you, Boromir. You must fight yourself. An attack from the Watcher doesn't engage. Boromir hits, wounds! 4 damage there. A slight cut. Back comes the Watcher. Back and forth they go through 15 rounds. Still a very close fight. Could break either way on this one. Back and forth, they're dancing. No one's hitting anyone. A hit there by Boromir, no damage. And a wound by the Watcher. Again, slight damage. Boromir up by only 3 damage points through 20 rounds. Back and forth they go. A hit and a wound, no wound by Boromir. Oh, a hit and no wound by the Watcher. Pretty close one here, guys. Could go either way. Back and forth they go. A hit and a wound again by Boromir. Slight damage. All right, let's see. Hit and a wound by the Watcher. Still 5-point advantage in favor of Boromir through the 31st round. This could be a long one, guys. Back and forth they go. Dancing. They're dancing. Everyone's attacking, failing to hit. Makes a little bit of sense since the Watcher, after all, is submerged in water. Picture these battles however you guys want them. I'll just give you my view on how I see them. A hit and a wound by Boromir. What kind of damage is it? Slam! And a death stroke by Boromir in the 42nd round. Boromir wins. Wow. So long fight there, guys. Longer than we would have thought, but two pretty evenly matched characters. Obviously, they're both the same seed. They're both 3 seeds in this tournament. Who do we got next? Ah, yes. Our 2 seeds for the evening. Elrond of Rivendell against Azaghal, the Dwarf Lord of the First Stage. Now again, we like to do a little trip to Lordor for these lesser-known characters. So while I pull up the battle engine, I will do my best to multitask and tell you guys a little bit about Azaghal, the Dwarf Lord of Belegost. So here... No, there we go. Azaghal against Elrond. Or Elrond against Azaghal. There we are. Yeah, so I was going to say, Azaghal is one of these characters from the Silmarillion. So, don't sweat if you haven't read the Silmarillion. Just know that in the wars of the First Stage, in Beleriand, a continent that no longer exists, it was sunk in the wars of wrath by the Valar. Azaghal was the only dwarf, him and his guys from Belegost, they were the only dwarves, the only beings that could forge armor stout enough to withstand dragon fire, specifically the fire of Glaurung. And it was Azaghal, in his war mask, with his specially made dwarven armor, him and his crew, braved the dragon fire enough to wound the beast Glaurung. He plunged a dwarven blade into the dragon's belly and drove him from the battlefield. Fell. And so he won great renown. But in so doing, that spurt of dragon blood, you got to watch out for that when you pull the blade from the dragon's belly. He was wounded by that, and the poison of the wound ultimately killed Azaghal. So cool character from the First Stage there. How do these two match up? Let's take a quick look at the battle engine. Ah, yes. Green line, Elrond. Blue line, Azaghal. So you see a huge armor advantage, obviously, for Azaghal being a First Stage dwarf, as we just described. Dwarves in general are very tough on defense. They've got excellent toughness, 85 toughness you see there for Azaghal. And his armor is, 95? So this guy's a tank. Elrond, on the other hand, he has the ring, the water ring. And so you see at the top line there, he'll try to stand back and use his ranged attack as much as possible with Vilya, while Azaghal wants to be close and personal with his mithril battle axe. So 2 very different fighting styles here. You see the magic advantage right here for Elrond. Spirit advantage, obviously, in terms of Elrond. He's got great magic with that ring, and of course being half elven and an ancient elf himself. So, if you're Team Elves, I think you got to be a little worried in this one, man. He'll try to hang back and do ranged attacks. But hey, I'm Switzerland, and I don't have a dog in the fight, so we'll see which way it breaks. Shall we fight? Answer is yes. Let us fight! In the second fight of the last night of the first round, we have Elrond against Azaghal. Let them fight. First attack goes to Elrond with his Ring Vilya. He hits, but does no damage. Off the Dwarvish armor. Probably going to be a theme in this one. Azaghal counters. He engages him, but can't hit with his Mithril Battle Axe. Back and forth they go. A hit, no wounds. A hit by Elrond, ends up drawing first blood with the Elven Ring. 24 damage to the dwarf, and Elrond takes an early lead. Can Azaghal come back? He can't engage, and now Elrond counters. A hit and another wound. Only slight damage with the Elven Ring Vilya. Again, a chance for Azaghal. He hits! He wounds! Evens the fight! With a fell stroke from his Mithril Axe. Back comes Elrond. Fight very even in the 9th round. Elrond attacks. A wound! Only slight damage. 3. Back comes Azaghal. He attacks. Can't engage the wily elf. Elrond. A hit and a wound! Another fell stroke! With the Ring Vilya. Elrond again takes control of the fight. What does Azaghal have up his sleeve? You are never out of the fight. Unless, of course, you are slain. He hits the elf, no damage. He had to attempt a dagger throw there. Must have caught himself in an unfortunate situation. He hunks a dagger, doesn't do anything. Elrond counters, engages, can't hit. Azaghal comes back. And they're dancing, back and forth in the 15th round. Neither one drawing any blood. Back and forth they go. Elrond forced to use the Sword of Imladris there. Doesn't do anything against the Dwarvish armor. Back and forth they go. Keeping their distance, circling. Neither one drawing blood. An engagement there, a hit, and a slight wound by Azaghal. Okay. Now, what can Elrond do? Can he win? He engages, can't hit. Azaghal counters. Nothing. A hit and a wound by Elrond isn't enough! Slay! And the elf slays the dwarf. Elrond of Rivendell wins. Good one there, guys. Good one there. That one lost you guys some money, didn't it? It would have lost me some money. I had a good feeling about Azaghal on that one. No dice. Moving right along. Take a quick look at the bracket, shall we? I don't know if we're going to be joined by the rest of the crew tonight. Busy Thursday night out there, apparently. So if we look at the bracket here, we haven't fought those 2 1 seeds. Let's go to the other side. Azaghal is lost to Elrond. So Elrond will advance to take on his foster son Aragorn in the next round. You knew you wanted to see that fight. Half elf against man. So that'll be great. All right, switching back to the other side. In the top of the left-hand side of the bracket, we have our 1 seeds here. And our first fight is going to be Durin against Glorfindel. 2 of the most fell characters in the field. Obviously, they're 1 seeds, right? So Durin, Glorfindel. 2 heavy hitters. You know, I won't say they need no introduction, though. These are 2 maybe lesser-known characters. So let's get into it a little bit. Durin, this is actually Durin the Fourth. If you know about the Naugrin, the dwarves. Durin sort of reincarnates throughout the ages. And this is one of the plans of the Dwarven creator. They have their own Vala that created the dwarves. That being Aule, the smith, the lord of the forge. And when Aule made the dwarves, you know, he did so sort of in disregard for Iluvatar's plans. And he brought the dwarves into being before Iluvatar's time for the firstborn, that being the elves, the Eldar, to come into being. And so he preempted Iluvatar. And, Iluvatar, he wasn't pissed, but he wasn't happy. And so the first Durin was created in the First Age, actually before the elves even came into being. This is underground, deep at the roots of the mountains, where Aule was working in his forge. And so, Aule, in that one scene, he sort of prays to Iluvatar and says, well, Iluvatar, hey, I realize that's my mistake, my bad, guy. Should I take my hammer and slay the dwarves even as they stand? And Iluvatar says, no. I can see that these things clearly have a life and being. They're beings of their own now. It would be unjust. I'm so pissed at you. So what you have to do is keep them underground until after the firstborn emerge at Cuivienen. So the elves emerge in the far, far east, the unknown parts of the Tolkien map, right? Far, far east of east, in Cuivienen, the land of thousand waterfalls under the stars. The elves come into being, and then right away the dwarves, pretty much a second after the elves come into being, rise up under the first Durin. Now, the Durin that's going to fight tonight is not Durin 1. This is Durin 4. So this is the Durin of the Second Age that actually engages not only ultimately in the Last Alliance, but the one who awakens the Balrog of Khazad-dûr after the events of the Last Alliance, and ends up being his undoing. Hence the name Durin's Bane. So that's who we're dealing with here. Glorfindel, also a character dating all the way back to the First Age. So older than Durin the Fourth here. He, of course, was one of the Noldor serving Turgon in Gondolin. And during the fall of Gondolin, the last bastion of the Noldor there in Beleriand, in the First Stage, the last bastion, the White City, the city actually that Minas Tirith was ultimately modeled after. You had Glorfindel there, sort of as a rear guard against King Turgon, taking Turgon's daughter, and of course, they blended the lines of elves and men in the city of Gondolin, with Turgon's daughter, and let me get it right, Húrin's son. So Huor, and then Huor's son Tuor ends up getting the armor from Ulmo. He was the one that was foretold to go to Gondolin and then wed the daughter of King Turgon, unite the houses of elves and men, and continue the bloodline of both races. So an apt thing to talk about in the Races of the Middle-earth tournament. That was one of two times where elves and men join bloodlines. The other more famous one is Beren and Luthien, right? The less well-known one, though, all came from Gondolin, and has to do with our guy Glorfindel here, because Glorfindel saved those two heirs to their respective thrones, to elves and men, on the passes outside of the Hrysaegrim mountains outside of Gondolin, when a Balrog was waiting in the mountain pass, and someone had to sacrifice themselves to take that thing down. And who jumped on the grenade? Well, it was our guy Glorfindel. Now, he fell, but you know what Tolkien means when he says fell, right? Think Gandalf, also with the Balrog in the Mines of Moria. Was he slain? Define slain. Maya spirits don't really get slain, certainly not in the conventional way, that their physical forms can be harmed or torn apart or destroyed, but they lapse sort of into the spirit realm and go back ultimately to the source, right? Which the ultimate source is Ilúvatar, but the source within Ea, within the sphere of the world, would be the Gardens of Healing in Lorien. Lorien was one of the Valar. Lothlorien, up here in the map behind me, Lothlorien there is named after the Gardens of Lorien, the Valar in Middle-earth. That's the place of healing where Olorin, Gandalf, in his first age form, sort of worked for Lorien, the Valar, apprenticed for him. And that's where the spirits repair to be healed and to find rest. Well, what's that have to do with Glorfindel? He too he fell, but he was not slain. Now, elves can be slain. Mostly, they go to the halls of Mondos and live on in some form that we don't really know about within the halls of Valar. Still in the realm of Ea, whereas men, when men are slain, they go to heaven with Ilúvatar, a fate apart, right? So that's the gift of men. Men don't have to linger within the spheres of the world. The second-born were given the gift of death. That's one of the coolest parts of Tolkien's writing, right? He reminds us that death is a gift. Now, Morgoth was the one who twisted it into a concept of fear and darkness. He made men fear death, when actually it was supposed to be a gift. And then, the Númenóreans ultimately get so jealous of the elves, thinking, man. Well, this is the work of Sauron, right? But Sauron leads them to think, oh, the elves, they get to linger here forever, and they don't really die. They go to the halls of Mondos. And by the way, unless they're slain, they never do die. They're immortal. They're the immortal race. And they're fair and they're magical and they sing. They got killer pipes. The whole thing. You should be jealous of them, men. When, ultimately they misunderstand their fate and they misunderstand their identity as the race of men, right? Their gift is death. And the briefness and the sharpness of life is also a gift because, their flame flickers out within such a short time compared to the elves and even the dwarves that, they learn to appreciate life within the sphere of the world in a different way. So, little lore for you there, went down the rabbit hole. We have our first fight coming up here, of one seeds, I should say. We've got Glorfindel against Durin. Let's pull this up in the battle engine and see how these two stack up in terms of stats. So let me pull up Glorfindel and let me pull up Durin. Here we go. There we are. Glorfindel against Durin. Green line, Glorfindel. Blue line, Durin. So it stands out right away. Look at here. Get the screen up. Sorry, guys. Elusiveness. Always going to go in favor of the elves. Agility, same thing. Dexterity, same thing. Dwarves just can't compete with elves in terms of dexterity, elusiveness, agility, stamina, right? These are part of being the elven race, right? Is being a stud in all those categories. And Glorfindel is. But look where it breaks the other way. Armor. Huge advantage. Huge advantage for Durin. Now, Durin's armor is 90. So, not quite as fell as Azaghal, actually, because Azaghal, you got to remember, was in the first age. Not only a first age guy, but leader of Belagos, where they forged some of the most killer armor ever made, anywhere maybe outside of Moria. Now, Durin, of course, did live in Moria, but he was in the second age, and so a couple armor points in favor of Azaghal on that. Still, though, 90 armor is just about as good as it gets. Dwarves also very good on defense with, those are offensive stats. Good on valor, good on ferocity, no huge advantages there. Toughness and spirit, of course, that's the other thing, by the way, is Durin had one of the first dwarven rings of power. So unlike other dwarves, he's actually got quite a bit of spirit and some magic, right? So look here. Magic 65. Still not as high as Glorfindel, right? He's still not an elf. But with that ring of power, he goes from the 40s up to the 60s here in Magic. And same with Spirit. His Spirit's actually quite high. So, some advantages here for Durin. That said, Glorfindel's an awfully tough out. Last thing here in the battle engine, we see that Glorfindel is going to prefer melee with the Blade of the Gondolin. And Durin, also melee, obviously. Dwarves, not so good in range combat. He's going to wield the Hammer of Khazad-dûr. And each will get to use their preferred weapon about 80% of the time. Drink of water. And then we're ready to fight. Drop in the comments who you guys like in this one. Let us see how it shakes out. Let us fight! All right, ladies and gentlemen. Third fight of the fourth night of the first round of the Races of Middle-earth tournament. Easy for me to say. We've got Glorfindel against Durin, a battle of heavy hitters and 1 seeds in the tournament. Let us fight. First attack to Durin with the Hammer of Khazad-dûr. He engages but cannot hit. Back comes Glorfindel. Can't engage. Durin, counter-strike. Hit, no wound, drawing first blood. Forced to use a dagger throw. But it hits true and draws blood. And Durin takes the lead in the third round. Back comes Glorfindel. Engages, can't draw any damage. Durin can't engage. Glorfindel can't engage. And they're dancing. Dancing back and forth. A hit, no wound there for Durin. Can't engage. Back and forth they go, hitting but not wounding. In favor of Glorfindel and in favor of Durin through 13 rounds. Anyone's fight. Back and forth they go. Who can gain a slight edge? Back and forth they go, engaging but they're not hitting. Back and forth, a hit there by Glorfindel, no damage. Teep! Off the Dwarven armor. Dwarven armor's a real thing, we say it every night. Back and forth they go. No damage. Either way, no damage. Again, a glancing blow there by Glorfindel off the dwarvish armor. Durin counters. Can't do anything. Back and forth they go through 30 rounds. A hit there by Glorfindel. No damage. So, slight edge for Durin in the 30th round. Now guys, drop it in the comments who you got in this one. What's happening? Back and forth they go. They're dancing. Oh, a fell stroke there by Glorfindel. He finally lands a blow through the armor and takes the lead in the 34th round. Durin gets up, wipes the blood off of his fancy armor, and swings his hammer. Whiff! Back comes Glorfindel. A hit! No damage. Tink! Off the armor. Durin's turn. Can't engage. Another hit and a slight wound by Glorfindel. Looks like the elf's finally starting to assert himself. Durin, will he use the ring? Back and forth they go through the 40th round. Edge to Glorfindel. Dancing. Oh, a hit and a very slight wound there for Durin. Almost no damage. Back and forth. No damage. Engaging, not hitting. Not engaging. A hit and a wound by Glorfindel. Another fell stroke. All right, Glorfindel is pressing his advantage here. He's got Durin on the ropes. Can the Lord of Khazad-dûr make the comeback? You are never out of the fight, especially if you are a Dwarf Lord. Back and forth, a hit, no damage by Glorfindel there. Durin counters. Back and forth, Durin needs a fell stroke here to stay in the fight. Can he do it? He hits! No damage, the elf. Glorfindel counters. Engages, can't hit. Durin, back and forth. Another hit by Glorfindel, nothing. Back and forth they go through the 58th round. Marathon battle here, folks. Who's got it? Who can claim an advantage? Oh, a fell stroke! Not so fell as it turns out. Draws a little bit of blood for Durin. Might be too little too late here. The next couple strokes for Glorfindel should do it. There's one. Again, very slight damage. Durin hanging in. A hit and a wound by Durin to even the fight a little more. He's back in it, ladies and gentlemen. Never count out a dwarf. Alright, can Glorfindel finish this? Feel like he's playing with his food. You know what your mama told you, if you play with your food, you don't get dessert. Maybe no dessert here, he's gonna blow it. Back and forth they go through the 70th round. Slight lead for Glorfindel. A hit, no damage for Durin. Back and forth, a hit and a wound, and Durin takes the lead in the 73rd round. This is shaping up to be an epic, guys. Either way, anyone's fight. Now, Glorfindel, the pressure building for the pointy-eared elf of Gondolin. Can he get back in the fight? He attacks, engages, can't hit. Durin counters, can't engage. Glorfindel, a hit. No damage for the elf. Now Durin counters, can't engage. Glorfindel, can't engage. Durin engages, can't hit. Glorfindel engages, can't hit. Durin can't engage. Back and forth they go, dancing in the 84th round. A hit there by Glorfindel off the dwarvish armor. Durin engages, can't hit. A hit and a wound by Glorfindel. Woo! Basically a tied fight here, guys. Slight advantage to Durin in the 87th round. Woo-wee! Anyone's fight. Back and forth they go, approaching 90 rounds. They're dancing. They're resting. A hit, no damage. Engaging. Glorfindel. Ooh, they got to be tired at this point. A hit, no damage by Durin. Does anyone want to win this fight? Glorfindel. Woo! Engages, can't hit. Durin counters. Can't do anything. Either one. Ooh, they're wearing out here, guys. They're leaning on each other. They're going to have to dig deep. Who's got the better stamina? Hitting, no wounds here. Through 105 rounds, we might have a new record. Glorfindel engages, can't wound. Durin, nothing. Back and forth, nothing. Oh, a wound there by Durin. He takes Glorfindel down to 22 health. Glorfindel attacks, can't hit. Durin hits, no wounds. Back and forth, another hit by Durin, no wounds, no damage. Woo! Back and forth they go. The next stroke by anyone could do it. Back and forth, a hit. Glorfindel, no damage. Dwarven armor. Durin can't engage. Glorfindel engages, can't hit. A hit and a wound! Only slight damage by Durin. Got him down below 20. Glorfindel hits. No damage. Back comes Durin. Hits. No damage. Boy, these are two absolute man-bear pigs going at it. An all-time classic here. A hit and a wound by Glorfindel. Not enough damage. But boys, man, we're within 6 points here. A hit. No damage by Glorfindel. Durin comes back. Nothing. Another hit by Glorfindel. No damage. Durin comes back. Oh, a hit by Glorfindel. He's trying. He's digging deep. He's tapping into that elven well of stamina. But it's not doing anything against the dwarven armor. Back and forth they go. A hit and a wound by Durin isn't enough. Slay! And Durin, in an all-time class, slays Glorfindel. And that's how it's done, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. 141 rounds between two 1 seeds. You don't like to see anyone lose a fight like that, man. But in the end, it is Durin of Khazad-dûm claiming the victory for the race of the dwarves. Now, Grim! Man. I'm running out of voice, guys. Your boy needs some water or a shot of whiskey. All right. Whew. One more fight left. Our nightcap for tonight is a good one. Our other two 1 seeds. Elendil of Numenor against Khamul, also formerly of Numenor, but they say he became one of the 9 when he was given a magic ring by Sauron in the port of Umbar near the Southron territory. The Black Numenorian was twisted into a Nazgul, ultimately rising to become second in command to the Witch King himself, overthrowing kingdom after kingdom of men. So, definitely one of the lesser known characters here, Khamul, the like we said, the sort of second in command, second ranking Nazgul under the Witch King. So nasty character in all kind of ways, right? Elendil, you guys will remember, he in the Second Age, as I pull this up in the battle engine, we'll give you guys a little bit of Lordor here. If you've only experienced Tolkien's work sort of through the movies, you don't have much exposure to Elendil. However, you do know. Give me 1 second here. I can't multitask. I'm just pulling up the battle engine. So Elendil against Khamul. There it is. Okay. Sorry, guys. So yeah, as I was saying, in the movies, you did actually see Elendil in the First Age sort of flashback scene, right, where the last alliance of elves and men is marching on the gates of Mordor, through the gates of Mordor, on the slopes of Mount Doom, and they're winning the war. Really, the elves and men are too much for the armies of Sauron, and so of course Sauron takes matters into his own hands, comes out on the battlefield and slays Elendil and slays Gil-galad. So the two captains of the elves and men, respectively, are undone, and then that's when Isildur takes Narsil, Elendil's sword, and famously cuts the ring from Sauron's hand. So the guy you see in those scenes is Elendil. Now, Elendil was one of the faithful, one of the men of Numenor that was faithful to the elves, while the vast majority of that kingdom, Numenor, was anti-elf. And really, to make a long, very cool story of the Calabeth as short as I can, the Numenorians grew so fell as an army, as a race of men, that they marched to Mordor, kicked the absolute shit out of Sauron and his armies. Now, did they actually kick Sauron's ass? It's debatable. I think the better way to look at it is Sauron feigned as if, oh, you guys are so cool, and you're much too powerful for me. And then Sauron switched to playing the long game, right? And his long game was, oh, you're so powerful, you masterful race of men, you Numenorians. But he really wanted to be taken prisoner, and so he was. And once he was a prisoner, they took him back to Numenor, and slowly but surely he corrupted pretty much the entire race of Numenorians from the top down, through two different kings' reigns in Numenor. But the House of Elendil was always faithful to the elves, and even when Sauron was setting the hearts of the men of Numenor against the elves, Elendil and his house was saying, we can't think that way. The only reason we have this land is because we were faithful to the elves, and we were given this land, Numenor, this island, as a gift from the elves, and then by proxy, really by the Maiar and the Valar after the War of Wrath and the downfall of Morgoth. It's the only reason we had a land of our own to begin with, and now we're fixing to attack Valar and attack the elves there. No. And so Elendil and his son Isildur and Anarion and his whole household go in 7 ships from Numenor back to Middle-earth. And during the downfall of Numenor, cataclysmic destruction, tsunamis, the sea washing over the land, the volcanoes erupting. I mean, it's literally a cataclysm that undoes the whole island of Numenor. Just like the legend of Atlantis says, it's an Atlantean legend at its core is the Akallabeth, right? But Elendil and the 7 Palantirs and a seedling of the tree of Nimloth is brought to Middle-earth. So the lineage of the half-elven race and I won't go into the half-elven thing. That's a side story. But anyway, the heirlooms of the House of Elendil survived, and they were able to then forge the kingdoms of Arnor and Gondor that we see in the Third Age, right? So that's Elendil, and that's Khamûl. But who will win? There is only one way to see for sure, and that is to fight. What's the battle engine say here? Khamûl is going to use his ranged combat necromancy. Interesting call. And Elendil is going to, of course, wield Narsil in melee combat. The battlefield conditions are such that each character will use their preferred weapon 90% of the time. Relative strengths, relative weaknesses. Blue line here is Elendil. Green line is Khamûl. A couple advantages here to Elendil, maybe more than you'd think. His valor is really, really good. I mean, it's maxed out. I mean, look, if you're brave enough to go toe to toe with Sauron, you're getting maxed out valor. Valor didn't get any better really than Elendil. What is valor, by the way? I'm glad you asked. It's good to remind folks. Valor is a defensive stat that determines 1/3 of your likelihood of withstanding damage. So this makes him a pretty hard dude to hurt. But it's going to be a couple advantages here to Khamûl too: piercing and magic and spirit. So he's probably making the right call here to hang back and use his ranged attack, the necromancy of the one of the 9 rings for men given to the Nazgûl. So he's going to rely on that just a little bit. Excuse me. Man, my voice is going. So, before I lose my voice here, shall we fight? Survey says, yes, we shall. Well then. Let's share the screen before we fight. That's an important thing. I don't know where the screen went. My bad. Okay, screen's back. Let us fight. In the last fight of the last night of the first round of the Races of Middle-earth tournament, we have Khamûl the Nazgûl against Elendil of Numenor. Let us fight. First attack goes to Khamûl. He's forced right off the bat to use his less favorable weapon, his Morhud blade, but he cannot engage. Back comes Elendil. Engages, cannot hit. Khamûl hits, draws first blood, and a fell stroke it is with necromancy. 33 damage dealt to Elendil. Oof. Good start by the Nazgûl. Back comes Elendil. He swings Narsil, cannot hit. Khamûl counters. Hits! Wounds! Another foul stroke! With necromancy doing the job. Everything I said about that, valor being 1/3 of the ability to withstand damage, apparently the other 2/3 not working in favor of Elendil so far in this one. But you are never out of the fight. Let's see what Elendil's got up his sleeve. He counters. Can't even engage. Khamûl comes back. Hits. Wounds isn't enough! And it's a beatdown slay! and the Nazgul devastates Elendil in a perfect, flawless victory. Wow. So, that's life in the battle engine. That's life in the Chamber of Doom. We have a 140 round epic death match against for two of our one seeds, Glorfindel against Durin, followed by a 7-round beatdown in favor of Nazgul. So evil reigns supreme during our nightcap, and that brings some balance to the field because I feel like, let's see, did an elf win earlier? No, because Glorfindel lost. Let's pull up the bracket and have one last look here. We're going to do that anyway. So where are we at here, guys? We are, yes, in the second. So for our one seeds on the left side of the bracket here, we had Durin slay Glorfindel, and we had Khamûl slay Elendil to set up a pretty cool battle against Durin against Khamûl in the next round. Then down here, of course, we had Boromir slay the Watcher, and he'll go on to fight. Oh man, I can't remember if it was Gimli or Gilgalad. I didn't set the bracket yet. Was it? Who was it? It was someone drop in the comments. I'm not. My brain's not working. So Boromir will advance, I think, to fight Gilgalad. Could be wrong on that. And then on our other side of the bracket, of course, we've got our 2 seeds. And as we said earlier, that one's going to be Elrond against his foster son, Aragorn. So I will update the bracket right after we get off, pretty much right now, tonight. And I'll get this looking pretty for you guys. And I'm stoked for round 2. That's all we got for tonight. So, as always, thank you all for watching. Thanks for joining in. Tell your friends. Spread the word. This is what we do here at Middle Earth Madness and in the Chamber of Death, which is what we call this little streaming studio. I am the Madness Maestro, and I bring to you simulated Tolkien fights and a lot of lore. So, if this is your jam, tell some friends, man. Do that stuff on the red bar there. Go to Middle Earth Madness, like and follow, do all the social media things that yours truly does not excel at. So, yeah, I rely on the fans to drop love, to support us, to spread the word, and I will keep on doing what I do and bringing you all the best Tolkien content that we can pull for you guys. So, thanks again for hopping on. Thanks for tuning in. And in the words of Gandalf, you cannot come to the light except through the shadow. But where there is light, there is always hope. And you are never out of the fight. See you guys next time.